thought it would be so much easier just to say, here's Rabbi. But, neither can I. I can't hear yet. I haven't started. That's usually, by the way, what I say to my wife. I can't hear you. It doesn't work out well then either. So good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming out today and sharing this Lunch and Learn program with us. I want to give a very extra special thank you to Rabbi Green and to Rabbi Jacobowitz for inviting me to speak. I want to acknowledge the presence of our new Morid Asra, Rabbi Hyman, and our president, Tallis, Rabbi Dr. Avi Kuperberg, and so many other friends that have come to join us today. Now, I know there are sponsors here today, but I'm going to mess around a little bit. I hope you don't mind. That's a technical term, mess around. And just don't forget it. The truth of the matter is I'd like to dedicate today's shir first and foremost as a schus for Refuah Shalema, for all of those amongst us and our friends, and all of those in Klal Yisrael that need a swift and speedy Refuah Shalema and Yeshuos, and Hashem Yishmar et HaChayalim, Ha'omdim al Mishmar Atzenu. Main the Amen. Lorraine and I have been privileged to be here for quite a few years now, Baruch Hashem. And when we originally came, it was because we had friends in Flatbush that introduced us, and we had friends that, we met right away over here. But I didn't realize the kind of reacquaintances that we would make from the course of our history. Sitting in this room today is the daughter of the person who wrote my bar mitzvah pshat, Sandy Goldschmidt. Who would have put that together? The Winselbergs were a part of my family, my growing up. And I know Willie Itzkowitz isn't here today, but Willie's parents were very close friends of my parents. And you would think that when you reacquaint after all these years, that somehow the miles would make a difference. And just the opposite. They ensure that you've reinvigorated acquaintances and friendships, and you see them blossom over here. And that's kol hakavod to the community. But I want to dedicate today's shir for a particular memory. Talk about odd couples in terms of how you would peg relationships. You all know and appreciate the beneficence of Marcy Kurtz. What you don't know is that above my learning desk in Flatbush in my home, I have a nice library there. There are pictures, rogues gallery of people that have influenced my life. And prominently sitting there is a picture of her husband, Jeff. What you don't know is that Jeff and I go back more than 60 years. And the picture that's sitting there is a snapshot that was taken at my chasna. And I start each day of learning by saying good morning to Jeff and inviting him to learn with me, as he is in the Olam HaEmes. I grew up spending many a Shabbos in his parents' house on the corner of Avenue L and Ocean Avenue, the old neighborhood. And I watched as he took care of a dying father and how lovingly he took care of him. And it was a very debilitating disease. And together with another person that the name you'll recognize, we were three musketeers. Joel Mateshin's younger brother, Ben Sion, was the third in this triumvirate. Now, put Marcy and the Mateshins and myself together, and you say, what doesn't belong here? Okay? We were all schoolmates. We were friends. And that's the point. We set up so much to be walls and blocks and things that we can't figure out how we're really the same. And we are. And we say it all the time, and we have to mean it. So I want to say thank you to Marcy for all of the things that she's done for the shul. And the reason why I bring this up is because, hey, Marcy knows my family's been hugging better than anyone because she spent so many Pesachs with my brother and Sidorim and my nieces and nephews. But more importantly, I want you to understand that the chesed that you see is a mirror image and reflection of what her husband Jeff was. So why choose now? This coming Motzei Shabbos is the 15th yard site of Yosef Alexander ben Dov. Not only did I know Jeff, I knew his parents, I knew his sister, Aleha Shalom, and I saw an entire family that Marcy helped raise, and that Marcy is the Bubby too. And I think we always have to appreciate the legacies and the symbiotic things that you see in a spouse. And that may end up coming back to be thematic to what I'd like to say today. So, in the schus of Yosef Alexander ben Dov, paying the Shmos Otzur B'Tzar Chayim, and when we always be able to share in simchas and associate with good friends in good times and in learning. So for those of you that attend the Shabbos Wolverton Ashir, you know that I always press the envelope a little bit and push it, and we have always a corporate sponsor. So I didn't feel any different about today. And I wanted to pick someone that you're all very familiar with and something that'll make a reishim on you all. So there was no question that our corporate sponsor today had to be Murray Eden. Flying stairs. You don't know who Murray Eden is. Jonas, you don't know who Murray Eden is? Murray Eden. Come on. I'm incredulous. Okay, wait till the end. We'll find out who Murray Eden is. Huh? No, it's a real guy. Murray Eden. Very famous. And you don't know. Lunch and learn. We never learned something. So most of you know that I spent the better part of my working years in business. And I've been asked, as recently as this morning, someone came over to me and asked me, why didn't I go into the Rabbi? What's my problem? So I have a brother, a role model, and why didn't you do it? Why didn't you go into the rabbinate? So the truth of the matter is I wanted to have time for my learning and giving shiurim, and a pulpit rabbi's life is really anything but his own. He's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and Shabbosim, and Yom Tovim, and that always places him squarely in the public eye. So Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld, Zechron Lebracha, has a phenomenal story about this. He once got a call at 3 in the morning, and it's telephone ringing off the hook, and it's a very distraught women constituent of his, woman congregant. And the voice on the line is just, inconsolable. Rabbi, I have a terrible, terrible problem. It's 3 in the morning. Just a minute ago, I got a call from Israel that my father-in-law passed away. And I had to call you right away. I'm so sorry to hear it, said Rabbi Schoenfeld. So tell me, what can I do for you? Well, I need to know what to do. About what? About the Shiva. What should we be observing? How should we observe? Should my husband sit here in Queens? Should he go to Israel? Should he Shiva over there? Should he try to go for the funeral? Should he come back, sit Shiva here? Maybe you should try to have them hold off the funeral a little bit. I have so many questions. I just don't know what to do. So Rabbi Schoenfeld asked her, so tell me, what does your husband think? And she says, my husband? He doesn't know anything yet. He's fast asleep. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, don't you know? Now, I haven't signed up. Today's drasha shir conversation is entitled The Art of the Tallis, a black and white conversation about fringe benefits. Okay, all of you that got the cutesy in that, I really appreciate it, okay? Send money, send notes, send whatever you want, but that's what we're going to talk about. So I want to get into the topic. but like any good topic, you need a little bit of a background. We all think we know what a tallis is. Let's see what that means. One more proscript, prescript, or some sort of a note. I want to thank all the women that came out today, because you really took a flyer. With a topic like a tallis and a black and white conversation about fringe benefits, the women turned to their husband and said, you go, nothing to do with me, you go. So all of you that turned out, very appreciative, and you're going to find out that you may have jumped the stick a little bit too quickly. Well, that got more stairs than Murray. Okay. So the Jewish prayer shawl, a tallis, is one of the most iconic Jewish objects. When we think of Jewish prayer of tefillah, we think of people wrapped up in a tallis. The tallis is worn by the shliach tzibur even at night, even by mincha and mariv, in many circles, because of kavod hatzibur. Kavod hatzibur. When the Rav in many shuls gets up to deliver Shabbos Tshuva drasha or Shabbos Hagodol drasha, I haven't had the excuse of being here for that, but I don't know what the minhag is here. But in many shuls, the Rav puts on and makes a bracha on a tallis before delivering it. L'kavod hatzibur. In many Hasidic circles, not only the Rabbanim, but the individual Balabatim have a minhag to wear a tallis to a Pesach Seder. And when you come into shul the next morning and the tallis is covered with wine, they point to it and say, that's my ticket to Olam Haba. They don't clean that tallis. They want that mark to be there. Many works of Jewish art depict the prayer shawl as part of the iconic look of a Jew. In fact, one of the most famous pictures of, unfortunately, the Shoah, is a picture of a Jew just before he was shot, wrapped in a tallis, with the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, looking to cut off his payas and beard, but wearing that tallis. The founders of the State of Israel decided that it's such an iconic symbol that they incorporated it into the design of the Israeli flag. That's an exact truth. Don't think it's by mistake or happenstance. In fact, going along the line of minhagim, there's a minhag in German families and yekes to get married under a chuppah. That's the tallis. And some even have the minhag to wrap it over the shoulders of both the chassan and the kala. So the message of the tallis is a message of improvement, of refinement. It's to avoid negative behavior. It's to encourage honor, kavod. But look at the veritable bracha that we make on a tallis. We don't make a bracha asher kiddushan mitzvosa v'tzivonu ala tallis. Lehisatef batalis. To wrap yourself up in a tallis. It's not good enough just to wear it. Little boshes tallis. Lehisatef. You have to wrap yourself up in a tallis. So a little bit more definition is called for over here. What exactly is a tallis? So when you call up your grandchildren, boys especially, and you tell them, no, you started learning Mishnayos, you started learning Gemara. Bobby Zaidi, Shnayim also in the Tallis, Zeo mer ani mitzvasiya, Zeo mer ani mitzvasiya. Opening salvo of Bobby Mitzvah. Two people are holding on to a tallis, and this one says it's mine. And this one says, no, it's mine. What should you do with the tallis? Says the Gemara, what kind of a tallis are we talking about? Is it a prayer shawl? That's not likely. The likelihood of you losing your tallis in the street, even 1,000 years ago, is among the most unlikely. The definition of a tallis is something totally different. The tallis that we're talking about is a garment, a cloak, a tunic, perhaps a shirt. But it's not that I don't know, that prayer shawl thingy. It's unlikely. But just like the word Eruv has become mixed up in society, in public, polite society, everyone goes around and points, well, the Eruv is not up. That's incorrect. It is not an Eruv. That string that attaches two pieces of property is called a tsuras hapesach, something that looks like a doorway, like an entranceway. But we've become so forgetful of the sources and the origins of things that we use a nomenclature and we call it an Eruv. An Eruv is the pas or the box of matzah or the whatever that you've used to keep in the house that the Rav has that makes a bracha on and that has bread, food that will cover the community. That's the Eruv. And that's the bracha that we make. We don't make a bracha when we say on the Eruv for that wire. The wire is there just to show definition, to show that it's private property. But we call it an Eruv anyway, because we don't know better. Want to take it one further? Same thing is with the Tallis that we wear, or the tzitzis that we wear. There is no place in Chumash where it is called a Tallis. It doesn't exist in the Chumash. Go through the entire Chamisha Chumash Torah. There is nowhere a place where it says you have to wear a Tallis. You know what it says? There's a mitzvah to wear tzitzis on a beged shel arba kanfos, a four-cornered garment that you're going to wear that's of a specific size, of course, like anything good and Jewish, argued about by our rabbanim over the course of time as the determination of that size. But a beged is the technical and correct term, a beged of arba kanfos, or a talis cover. We find the word beged and kisus, both of them in Chumash, but never associated with the word talis. The word talis actually has its origins from an Aramaic term called istalis or istalis. It was shortened because that's too much of a tongue twister to say, and it became talis. And that word first came into use during the period of the Mishnah. But arba kanfos is the correct term. The correct term for it. Whether you wear it as a beged cotton, whether you wear it under your shirt, above your shirt, if you wear it like the Hasidim wear it under a jacket, and we'll get to the reasoning for it. The reason why we do it, when there is no requirement for us to wear tzitzis, is to show chavivus hamitzvah, a love that we have for doing mitzvahs in general and for accomplishing this particular one in specific. Let me date you a little bit. Most of you guys are too young to remember, but there was a time in the 30s and the 40s and 50s where you didn't wear jackets, and this was pre the Nehru jacket. There was something called a zoot suit. I heard some recognition out there. Zoot suit. The zoot suit was this elongated jacket, and it posed a whole bunch of religious questions for Rabbanim. A zoot suit was a four-cornered garment, and anyone who wore it actually put himself into the jackpot. He had to put tzitzis on it, which is the reason why I never wore a zoot suit. But the truth of the matter is that if you examine what our rabbanim wear, those rabbis that wear either a frock, a rabbinic frock, or a bekisha, one that has a split in the back, you'll take a look carefully and you'll see one of the corners of a bekisha is specifically rounded. So it shouldn't end up being a beged that requires arba kanfos and therefore tzitzis. You never notice that. Spend more time with rabbis. It's a good thing. Examine their begodim, and you'll see that even their begodim talk about Torah. Just what they wear is Torah word. But if the zoot suit had been something that required tzitzis, that would have been some smooth style, man. That would have been really cool. Can you imagine someone, checking out to a zoot suit with tzitzis? That's not even funny. That's serious business. But when we think of tzitzis, we think of Tallis. And we're very careful and specific not to wear a Tallis that's made out of silk. In our circles, we try to avoid a Tallis made out of silk, because that's going to engender a problem, the problem of shatnez. Wool and linen worn together, silk is a derivative of linens, and as a result of that, we try to avoid it. Among some Hasidic communities, they opt for a very specific source for their talisim, and it's not Eretz Yisrael, and it is Turkey, and for a very specific reason. You see, Turkey doesn't have a climate that can grow flax, and as a result of that, they have no chashash that someone is going to go and import flax, which is the base ingredient in linen, in order to make talisim. And that's why they opt to buy their talisim, Turkish talisim, which are extremely heavy and very uncomfortable, but they wear it specifically to avoid this problem of shatnez. Okay, that's all the criteria that we need to understand it and to explain why the women are here today. And it's important. The traditional tallis is a white garment with black stripes, vertical, horizontal, call it whichever way you want. And while the Tallis issue is a very serious issue, as it is, this is only going to last 3 hours. If I wanted another 3 hours to talk about Tallis, then we could maybe begin to touch the topic. It comes from the chalazin fish, and we don't know if we have it. It's the urisak. It's too big a topic. There are so many shitos about it. For those that wear it, kol hakavod. For those that don't, kol hakavod. Whatever your Masorah is, perfectly fine. Apply those tzitzis correctly. But going back to those stripes, are they of any religious significance? Now, if you look around the room when you wear the tallis, you're going to see that the talisim are made very, very differently. Some are black and white, some have thin stripes, thick stripes. No two model is exactly the same. A, they can charge you more for the stripes. And B, what's the source? You're wearing it, don't you want to know the source? So here's a simple question. What time in the day are you allowed to put on your tallis, the tzitzis? What time in the day? Nope, it's more specific than that. It's a technical term. It's called mishiyakir. What does mishiyakir mean? Literally, it means when you recognize. Recognize what? The Gemara, after much discussion, identifies it as when you can recognize an acquaintance, not a close friend, an acquaintance from 4 amas away. That's the Zman of Mishiyakir. That's the time. The Gemara in Brachas asks it as a question. The Gemara says, Me'emasai karin eshma v'shachas. And the Gemara answers, the Mishnah, Mishiyakir ben chaylis l'lovan, when you can distinguish between blue and white. By the way, that blue today is a Pantone color. It has its own Pantone color. Rabbi wants to know what's a Pantone color. God, we have to get you up to date with style. Every year, the fashion industry publishes a color of the year. They identify it with a very specific name, title, and the combination of colors that you have to make in the rainbow spectrum in order to create a Pantone color. The color of the Israeli flag, the blue of the Israeli flag, has its own specific Pantone color. Just like the color turquoise of Tiffany's is a very specific Pantone color. You can get sued if you put that color on something that's not authorized. Didn't know that. See? Lunch and learn. Here we go. But the Gemara continues And the Gemara says, as with anything Jewish, as I said, Omer Rebbe Eliezer, not between Lavon and Kachol, but between Tcheles and Karsi. Between Tcheles, which is some sort of bluish, purplish color, and Karsi. Who knows what Karsi is? Leeks. Leeks. What color is a leek? Green. Okay, I have a problem. When I leave the house in the morning, I remember to take my Tallis, my tefillin, my sefer. I forget my leeks on the kitchen table. I usually don't walk around with it. So how do I know what's the right time to go and to put on my Tallis and tefillin? So Chazal came up with an ingenious idea. They said, why don't we put stripes on the Tallis? And we're going to use, originally, it was dark blue stripes. And then they were afraid that people are going to think that they could find Techeles everywhere. So they switched it to whatever dark dye they could find, which turned into black. And to distinguish between the black and the white, and I don't have to walk around carrying leeks in my pocket along with my tefillin. And that's how you could distinguish when it was time to put on your Tallis. And that's the source and the origin of the black stripes that we have on our Tallis. You never thought about that. You never knew that. That's why the pattern is not that important, but the differences in the size of the lines and the differences in the white in between the lines, and every manufacturer makes it different. It's an eye test. It's to see if you can distinguish between the black and the white in order to know what time of day it is. Not only that, but there's a further requirement. I need to know technically if it's the right time of day. So there was a Rav Meir Posen, a classic work on Meir, and he said that the exact time is when the horizon line is 11 degrees below, just in front of Alos HaShach, when the morning is going to dawn. And Chabad said, no. It's 10.2 degrees. And Rav Tukachinsky said, no, it's 12.9 degrees. So what do? You see, in addition to carrying around your leeks with you, you're supposed to walk into shul with a sextant, so you can see the sun in the sky and figure out exactly what degree you're supposed to hold it, and then you can put on your Tallis. So, of course, our Chazal have already gotten more mature past the sextant, and there's a machlokas with Rav Moshe saying 35 minutes, and Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky saying 36, and the Piskei Teshuva is 52, and Rav Tukachinsky again 60 minutes. Because I know you all check every morning all these sheets just to make sure you haven't put it on too early or too late. But we have calendars that post this. What's the source of this in the Torah then? The pasuk. And now comes the controversy. And we say the psukim because we all know the psukim by heart. Pasuk in Chumash Bamidbar, Pasha Shalach. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemar, Dabero b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleim, v'asu lahem tzitzis, al kanfe b'dehem, the dorosam, forever, the nostu al tzitzis, ha'kanof b'sil techeles, put the cheles strings in the corner. And here comes the big kicker line. V'ayol lachem l'tzitzis, it'll transform your garment into something that we call a garment with tzitzis. Ureisem also, uzachartem is called mitzvos Hashem, v'asisem also. Ureisem also, you'll see them. Hence the big controversy. Do we wear them outside our pants? Do we wear them under our shirt? Do we wear them above our jacket, under our jacket? How should we wear it? And this is the beautiful Nikki that I just slipped you. Because you're all caught up with this Ureisem also, and you miss the more important part of the statement. Ureisem also, and it takes Rashi to tell us this. Uzechartem es kol mitzvos Hashem. You should remember all the mitzvos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How are you supposed to remember all of the mitzvos? Rashi was puzzled by this. Says Rashi, it's right there in the word. It's right there. Let me read you from Rashi in Chumash Bamidbar. V'asu lahem tzitzis. He says it means literally tzitzis. Why? Uzachartem es kol ha-mitzvos. How do I remember all the mitzvos? Rashi says it's a gematria. The word tzitzis, spelled Tzadik Yud, adds up to 600. How does that happen? Tzadik is 90, Yud is 10. Repeat it again. Tzadik is 90, Yud is 10. Tuf, 400. Okay, take off your shoes and socks, little boys. Let's go. Come on. 400, 90, 10, 90, 10, 600. Says Rashi, I'm shy 13, but there's Chamisha Ksharim. There are 5 knots in every tzitzah, and Shmona Chutin, 8 strings. 8, 5, and 600, 613. And Rashi passes this to halacha. That when you look at your tzitzis, uzachartem es kol mitzvahs Hashem. That's why the mitzvah of tzitzis is so important. It's to remind us of every single mitzvah in the Torah. Did we think about that this morning? Because the first thing I thought of when I put my tzitzis on this morning was carbon based. No, it wasn't carbon, but it was fasting on Yom Kippur. 613 mitzvahs. No, it was Shabbos. I thought about Shabbos. How was I Mekayim the mitzvah of the Torah? Uzachartem. The reason part I got, controversial. Uzachartem is kol mitzvahs Hashem. How did we do that? So we have Rashi. Rashi said, you look at the number, you get to the gematria, and everything is good. This is actually a Gemara in Menachos. Coming up, those doing the daf are coming up to Menachos now. But there's a key takeaway that you have to take from this over here. And the takeaway is this concept of entirety. It's this concept of kol haTorah kula. Now, most of us have separate weekday and Shabbos Tallis. Did you ever wonder why? Rabbi Hyben actually explained it this week. 2 nights ago, he explained it, but he didn't talk about a tallis. He talked about silver chestnut. And I promised Rabbi Hyman that after I went up to him after Ma'ariv, by the way, you should all come to Ma'ariv, Mincha and Ma'ariv over here in Shul. It's beautiful. The learning that goes on, the learning of Shabbos. It's beautiful, beautiful. So Rabbi Hyman was postulating a reason as to why many Rabbanim played with a silver chest set specially designated for Shabbos. I promised him I would discuss it today. Chazal tell us that the special tallis that we wear on Shabbos has a special silver atarah on it, or it's some type of special atarah. Why? To remind us of the commandments of Shabbos, and especially the Lostases. We honor our tallis, that is a beggar of kavod to start with, and we add a layer of kavod to it in order that we should remember that it's Shabbos today. So when we play chess, we're going to remember it's Shabbos and not keep score in the way that we normally would. And we're going to do it in a way that's mechabed, that's HaShabbos. All of a sudden, Shabbos is figuring into my tzitzis. Kol HaTorah Kul. So everything that we've talked about today is so far seemingly to be very one-sided and very sexist and very to deal with the man. Now you're going to find out that it's just the opposite. Just the opposite. Because in the performance of any mitzvah, we have 2 parts to a mitzvah. 2 distinct and separate parts, and Chazal fight about that, of which is the more important of the 2 parts. What are the 2 parts? Well, there's the performance of the mitzvah itself, that's obvious. But the other and perhaps more important part is the preparation that went into the mitzvah. The prep is important. Talk to the ladies. cooking shows, what's the first thing that they get on the recipe? Suggested prep time. How much time it's going to take to put the ingredients together and prepare to actually do the cooking and to produce that fantastic food. Prep time counts. So let's take, for example, a sukkah. Let's take the mitzvah of sukkahs. The sukkah doesn't appear out of thin air. You got to source the material. You got to go and build it. You have to get the schach on just right. You have to decorate it. You have to put up the lighting, all the rules about where you place a sukkah. Then comes the table, the chairs. And for those of us that sleep in the sukkah, you need a bed schlepped up there. And then the husband gets up, makes a quick bracha, you eat a delicious meal, and sukkah is over. Who gets credit for all of the prep work that went into building that sukkah and preparing those meals and making that sukkah into a pe'er, into something beautiful, splendiferous, wonderful? Where's the credit for that part of the mitzvah? Which, by the way, is a total aside. When you make the bracha of Shechiyodu on the sukkah, you are supposed to have in mind the building of the sukkah and the cooking of the food and all the prep that went into it. That's all inclusive in that Shechiyodu that you make. Prep counts. Same story for the matzahs. You come to sit down at the Seder and you say the matzahs and you go through the Seder. My mother-in-law, Shalom, always used to say at the end of the Seder, Shain Danuch. Can't believe how quick it went. It's over. Snap your eyes and the Seder is gone. And it's just another memory in the rearview mirror. And what about the koshering and the cleaning and the washing and the disexchanging and all the other minutiae that's too numerous to detail? Where did that come from? Who gets the credit for all that prep? You know, which one of you guys is brave enough to stand before the firing squad? No? I'm not getting credit for it. Maybe I get an assist. You know, an assist is an important thing. There are some hockey fans over here. They'll tell you that once you drop the puck and you get it past the oh, no, you got to go first the red line, the blue line. You got to get it somewhere near the goalie's crease. You didn't think I knew that, right? See? And then you first take the shot. And you know who the books, all the sports books credit? Not the guy who got the shot. Yeah, he gets some credit. But they keep track of the assist. They keep track in basketball of the assist. In every sport, they keep track of who set it up. This is not just a Jewish concept. They have stolen it from us, borrowed it at least. But it's a concept that is important, the assist. Because you don't do it without the assist. If you don't have that hockey puck lined up just right so you could take that slap shot straight into the goalie's crease, if someone didn't feed you that puck just right or hand you that basketball, pass it to you for that layup, you're not getting it in the basket and you're not getting that credit. You need that assist. Halacha is no different. We all know who the unsung heroes are that shoulder the lion's share of efforts, and without them, Pesach and Sukkot isn't happening, nor is pretty much anything else. Over 100 years ago, there lived in Lemberg, also known today as Lvov, which is Ukraine, Shoichet. His name was Avram Yitzchak Sperling, Zechron Lebracha. And as a young man, he was always interested in Hagim and their reasons and their logics. And he published a sefer called Tamei Min Hagim U'Mekorei Hadin, source material. The sefer available, The sefer was an instant success. It was a bestseller. It was republished in his lifetime 6 different times. 6 different. This is pre-ArtScroll, 100 years pre-ArtScroll. Not only that, but as a total aside, Rav Sperling's 6 sons and his daughter, and the preponderance of his grandchildren were all killed by the Nazis. People don't know this. There also would have been a 7th and an 8th and a 10th edition too. I want to read to you from the Tamei Min Hagim. And I think this is fascinating. And he writes the following. Tam Minig Yisrael, the reason for the custom that's in Klal Yisrael. Shebiyom chasunaso, on the day of your wedding, uviyom simchas libo shel adam, and on the most happy day of one's life, biyom shenichtas lechuppah bazuga, on the day that he's going to enter under the marriage canopy with his future partner. Sholachas lo, she sends to him. Let me repeat that. Sholachas lo, she sends to him. Tallis in Dalit Titzios. The Tallis with 4 tzitzis on it. And Lamed Beis Chutim. And 32 strings. Why? 4 corners. Again, take off those shoes. 4 times 8, 32. Communion lay. The gematria of the word heart. The woman is sending her heart to us. No no shucks. No, come on. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that lovey-dovey? That's what she's doing. She's sending you her heart. She's giving you her heart. He writes that. He paskins that lahalacha. Makar hadinim. The source of the thing. It's not a storybook. So I've had the opportunity, Baruch Hashem, over the course of my times to speak at many Sheva Brachos or uproots. And I call the chassan up and I ask him, no. So did you pick out a tallis with the kama? Of course, yeah, we went shopping together. It was great. It was a lot of fun. It was a date. Good. And did you pick up a gorgeous, heavy silver Torah? Sure. What are you talking about? The flachana, one with boxes. No, there are all types of ataras. Silver guys have to make money too. And then you ask him, and I do, what about a new pair of tefillin? If the shver is on the hook for the tallis, why don't you ask for a new pair of tefillin? A tallis costs a couple of $100. Now, Torah adds another, $400 or $500. You know what a pair of tefillin costs today? I'm in the middle of a couple of what? Couple of grand. I'm in the middle of writing tefillin for my next day. Okay? I had to get the cipher close to a year ago because I wanted a particular cipher. I had to arrange for the cloth to come from a particular place that makes the cloth. I want a particular cipher, so I got online for that. After $4,000, we can begin to talk. Baruch Hashem, cipher have to make money. And they do. Baruch Hashem. But that's what it costs. So why not ask for a new pair of tefillin? You got to be a kliga. You're getting married. You got to support someone. Get the tefillin. And that's the point. That's the point of today's discussion. There were 2 questions you should have asked. And you asked neither of them. Why do we even have a thought that we should pay for this kid's tefillin? And secondly, where did the Torah come into this whole picture? Because I really pulled a Mickey on you, because today's whole discussion is about the art of the Tallis. You see, you all got the black and white and the fringes, but you missed the art of the Tallis. What's with this Torah that's going on? Where did this Torah come from? You all wear an Torah, except if you're Chabad. Okay, you wear a little color underneath. That's the Abizah. Where did this idea of an Torah come from? And by the way, in case you think the Goyim didn't take note of their most important idea of the Tallis, when a priest gives last rites, or here's your confession, what does he put on? An Torah. They call it a stole. I know why they call it a stole, because they stole it from us. What's on an Torah? I confused you enough. I've gone on long enough. Where did that Torah come from? Where did the Torah come into this picture? Are we all having that Torah? Where did it come from? Nope. And it's the most important part of today's conversation. And I'll tell you why. The reason why we don't want the chassan to be given a new pair of tefillin is because the reason we chose this chassan is because we've seen him in the tefillin that he has. We chose this boy based on his hashkafa, the way he davens, the way his family treats the tefillin, the way that he treats the tefillin, the way that he treats his learning. You're choosing a partner in life. You're choosing someone that's going to be with you for every special event. You're choosing someone that you want to bring into the marriage that particular hashkafa, that particular wavelength of Yahweh's. And not only that, you want to build it together with him, ladies. That's what you want to do. That's the prep work. That's the reason why you buy the Tallis. That's the reason why you go with him shopping for it. And that's the reason why you don't want to change the tefillin. You bought the tefillin. That's what you're buying in the boy. That's what you want. You want what he represents by the tefillin and the way he wears it and how he carries himself. And you know what you bring to the marriage? The very fabric and fiber of the marriage. Because while he's putting on the tallis in the morning in shul, what are you doing? Getting the kids ready to be woken up and getting them on the bus, and before the bus, the breakfast, before the breakfast, you signed the homework, and before that, you did everything else to make sure that this one went to the bathroom, and this one did this, and this one did that. So when we make a bracha every morning on that tallis, you know who gets the credit? You guys at home, doing the dishes. You guys at home, helping out, doing the prep work. And that's why it's lishatef batalis. Because you're wrapping yourself in everything that the tallis stands for. It's not the one act of putting on a tallis. It's everything that comes along with it. Rabbi Akiva said it best. Rabbi Akiva said, when he returns after the second 12 years of learning, and the throngs of people are amassed to go and greet Rabbi Akiva, and there are 24,000 Talmidim accompanying him, and this one little woman dressed in the most ragged of clothes is trying to get close to him, and he says, part the seas. Shavikna, he says, move aside. Shelach v'sheli shelahi. What you and I have in our learning, and you and I have the ability to learn this Torah and disseminate it, shelahi. It's on account of her. It's what she's doing on the home front, allowing us to take the public view of it, the credit for it, but it's all hers. It's all credit to her. No one else. Hers. And that's the symbolism of the tallis at the chuppah. That's the concept of the tallis at the chuppah. That's the concept of the tallis that we wear every day. It's a joint effort. It's not yours. It's ours. It's hers. And that's perhaps why we get buried in our kippur, but we also get buried in our tallis. What stands the tzitzis are cut off. You're no longer able to do the mitzvahs. You know why? Because you may have been the public eye, but it was your wife, it was your partner. And she hopefully is still there to do it. But she no longer can give you the credit for it. So we wear our tallis, la'omei alamim, for that purpose. It's a sobering thought. But the atara is still the icing on the cake. Because there's a psak halach over here. There's a Yerushalmi on Shabbos. It says the following. The Yerushalmi says, "Akosei shtei osios ben b'yamino ben b'smolo." On Shabbos, if someone writes two osios, whether he's right-handed, left-handed, makes no difference. And the Yerushalmi goes on to explain that's a violation of Hilchos Shabbos. And what happens, and where is it in the Mishkan? Because we know that all the Lamed Tesvalachos came from the Mishkan. Where is it in the Mishkan that they were writing? They were writing the board's numbers. Every board in the Mishkan had to have a number on it. And the Mishnah says it clearly. Shechayev Loshum or Lirshom Shtei Oisiyos, in order that they should know which board went next to which board. You had to know which board went next to which board. The Shemin Atov, Rabbi Bernard Weinberger Zatzal, who was the Rav of the Young Israel of Brooklyn. By the way, he was a very close friend of Satmar Rebbe, who was his neighbor down the block. And he writes very often in his forum about conversations that he had with the Satmar. And the Satmar Rebbe gives credit to him, because the two of them knew that the more walls that you build between people, the more controversy you build. But if you let people practice their religion their way, and yours your way, and say we have one big umbrella, and all of a sudden everyone can get along just fine. They were very good friends. He got us promise for his father from Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi of the Israel of Brooklyn. He writes the following. He says, do boards have lives? He says, does the board really care if you set them up this month over here or this month over there? They were all exactly the same size, the same weight, the same width, the same everything. Who cares? He says, yes, that's important. You know why? Because you have to know that there's a Seder Ha'olam. You have to know that the world was created with a Seder. Nothing in this world is happenstance. Nothing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu infused into creation is by chance. That's a Goyish concept. That's not our concept. Our concept is that everything is for a purpose for everything. So if you think this is over, now you're going to understand in our Torah. Paskins the Shulchan Aruch Lahalacha. This is in Hilchas Tzitzis. Yechadein behisatbo, a person should have in mind when he wraps himself in his tallis. Shetzivonu HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'satik boi k'dei sheniskar kol mitzvoso v'asoso. One has to remember every day. Imagine while you're putting on your tallis and you go through 613 mitzvahs to remember it. Or you can just look at your mitzvahs and remember u'zechartem is kol mitzvahs Hashem. Says the Magen Avraham on the side. V'nagu lasos atara michatichas meshi. And from here, from the Mishkan and the boards that we numbered, comes the minig to wear in a Torah, sha'osan tzitzis shalafonav, that those tzitzis that you wear in front, la'olam tiyei lefonav, should always be in front of you. Don't change the order of things. Don't change the order of mitzvahs. Don't change the order of halacha. Don't change around things. Reform is not a good idea. Conservatism has its place, but not in our shul. Don't change things around. He paskins this lahalacha. This is not a storybook. You wear that at Torah not because a galach is going to get last rites, but a galach understood, and the goyim understood the chashivas of what we have in our Torah. It keeps us on the straight and narrow. It keeps us looking forward. It keeps us centered. It keeps everything in its proper perspective. And that's what we have to have in mind. U'zechartem is kol mitzvahs Hashem. You can't remember 613 mitzvahs to terrify it like this. But you can remember what's supposed to be in front of you, and the tzitzis that are supposed to be behind you, what's in the rearview mirror, those kids that are coming along. And so when you're standing under the chuppah, the Yom Simchaso, the Yom Simchas Libo, and you're thinking about the girl that's standing next to you, and she's going to be the mother of your mini-me's and your grandchildren, Mitzvah Hashem, and hopefully great-grandchildren, this is what you invest in that tallis. And that's why Chazal want us to wear the tallis as a chuppah. And that's what Chazal want us to have in mind when we put on that atara, on the tallis that we're going to wear daily. And if we add to it on Shabbos a silver atara, how much better. We have an extra reminder about But that's the point. That's the point. Rabbi Wein always says, when he used to take his stress test, Wein's Zechron L'Bracha was a perfect writer. And he used to say when he used to take his stress tests, he says they hook you up to a whole bunch of cables, a whole bunch of things. So it was in the waiting room. You know how it is, the stress test, they hook you up and then they put you on the machine. And you're sitting there with other people. Someone saw that in addition to the strings that were attached to some wires, there were some strings that he was wearing on his outer compass. So they asked him, what's that? He said, did you ask the doctor what you hooked up to the monitors for? He says, these are my monitors. They hook me up to the Rabbi Shalom, and they keep me centered and squared, and they keep me in perspective. Yeah, but why do you wear them? Why do you put those monitors on your halter? And, did you ask the doctor that? Is he going to? Well, he went to medical school. I went to rabbi school. I know why I wear it. And we should all know why we wear it. And that's the story of why the women have more than a 50% story in this entire concept. Because there's a chartem as kol mitzvahs Hashem talks about our spouses. And that's what we should remember when we're putting on our tallis. So I want to conclude with a story that I had actually promised the Rav was somewhat Pesach Kron-worthy or somewhat Yoel Gold-worthy. And in fact, I'm going to take this full circle because the bar mitzvah that I went to was introduced to me by Rav Fabian Schoenfeld's son-in-law. We flew down, actually we drove down to New York, to Boca on December the 7th and 8th. That was a Sunday into a Monday. And that Thursday night, we flew back to New York. So we planned to get in pretty early, but we got into JFK well after 11 because we had to check some bags because we left some double bags down here from Pesach the year before. We needed to get it back. So anyway, we checked it. We had to wait at the carousel. And then anyone who's been at JFK recently knows that it's a real mahalach to get to a taxi. So by the time we got into a taxi, it's first 11:40 at night. So we get down to the base where the taxi is, and the dispatcher takes a look at all these duffel bags that we have and says, you're going to need a bigger one. And this nice looking, his features were Arabic, I don't know, but his name I had found out was Tarek. So you decide where he's from. And he says, no, I can fit it in. He speaks a very good English. And he gets all our bags in his car, and we start driving to Brooklyn from JFK. Now, if you know the terrain of Brooklyn, you'll know some of the folklore that goes along with it. So we get to Flatbush Avenue and Avenue Kings Plaza, Avenue U, right? He turns around, he shuts off the meter. The meter reads $46.80. He turns around to us and says, look, I'm shutting the meter over here. I know we got a little bit further to go. He'll take care of me, I'm sure. Anyone know what a shorty is? More stuff you don't know. Lunch and learn. You got to come more often. A shorty is a ticket that the dispatcher gives you if you took a trip that is less than $50. So the minute the meter hits $50, the cabbie, when he goes back to the airport, has to get into a 2 to 3 hour cab line before he gets dispatched to one of the terminals. He wanted to avoid that as a sharp cookie. Shuts the meter at $46.80 and says, I know you'll take care of me. She's my yarmulke. I talked to her. That was nice. So we get to the house. We get out. And I added the maximum amount that you could put on the tip. I was paying by credit card. It was 30%. I gave him a 30% tip. And I could see the light in his eyes smiling. And he was ecstatic. So we got out, took our duffel bags out. He shuts the trunk, turns around to go back into his door. And he doesn't. He goes back to the trunk. He calls me over. He lifts up the floorboard of the trunk and takes out a tefillin becker. He's got a tefillin zeppelin. He's as Arabic as they come. He says, listen, mister, you look like a nice Jewish person, and you took care of me very nicely. If Hashem time. He says, someone left this in my care 2 weeks ago. And I didn't have a fare to you that seemed responsible and proper and would take care of this. Do you think you could return it to the owner? It had a name on it that I could see. I said, sure. And Lorraine and I jumped. Before we could get out of the cab, we grabbed that tefillin. We took it in the house, and it was bitter cold out. But before we got our coats off, we thanked him. We took his number. We said, someone's going to call you to thank you. And before we had our coats off, we were opening that up to find the telephone number, to find something. It was nothing. Tefillin bag with a name on it, and I'm not going to tell you the name. And fine. I'm about to close the tefillin bag. Lorraine notices that embroidered on the reverse side of the top interior of the tefillin bag is embroidered a phone number. She says, call. I said, are you out of your Kaylin? It's not 3 in the morning, but it's 12:40. Who am I calling at 12? She said, call. So I did. The wife says, call. And with that look in her eyes, you listen. Didn't pick up. I said, it's 12:40, Lorraine. What do you expect? She said, text him. I wasn't asking twice. I texted him. A minute later, my phone rings. And a young boy picks up. You found my tefillin. Because I had texted him a picture of the tefillin. And he's dancing on the roof. I can hear it in his voice. He's as happy as can be. And we go through a half hour of text exchanges. Because he can't get off the phone. I mean, he just wants to just text it. And I told him it was all in the schus of my Rabbi, which was an alternative reason why I went home. To go to my Rebbe's to see him the next morning. Because Chaf Bey's Kislev is my Rebbe's yard site. And I went to see him to his cemetery to pay him with his Shabbos. Okay, Motzei Shabbos, I'm going to call this boy. At Shalosh Shudis, sitting there talking to a friend who I haven't seen in a while, and I tell him, Mayor, I just want to tell you that I got a great story to tell you. Let me tell you the story. And the rabbi starts speaking. Shalosh Shudis, I said, Mayor, I'll tell it to you later some other time. Never got to tell him the story. Motzei Shabbos, I speak to the boy. The boy tells me that he goes to Torah Academy of Bergen County. That's where he goes. And okay, very good. He lives in Manhattan. I said, listen, I'm going to Boca the next morning. I want to drop off a tefillin at your house in Manhattan. He says, no, you can't do that. There's no one home. I'm not home right now either. He says, but my Bubby lives in Brooklyn. And my Bubby is coming to a Hanukkah party this week. We'll see her there. And you can drop it off by her. I said, yeah, I'll be happy to. No problem. He says, but she's not home right now. I said, yeah, but I'm going tomorrow to... She's coming up from Florida. She'll be here Tuesday. I'm already bored of talking to this kid. I want to know how I get the tefillin to him. I said, could you put your mom on the phone? So his mother gets on the phone. And she explains to me Paul Harvey, the other half of the story. She says, my husband is in Eretz Yisrael right now, purchasing new tefillin for my son. He lost me. He's coming back this week, and he's going to surprise him with a new tefillin at the Hanukkah party. You stole the surprise, because now he's going to have 2 pair of tefillin. So my husband is going to donate this other pair of tefillin to someone in the yeshiva that he knows could use it. But I recognized your name, by the way. I said, how? She said, East 24th Street. How many people live on East 24th Street, that I know? His Bubby is here in Centuryville. Is my neighbor in Wolverton. I knew her name. I didn't know her married kid's name. Das ist stark am Schuldigen. Is that a story? Is that a Pesach story? That's what Century Village can accomplish. That's what we have over here. We have friends. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated this Hashem Aveda 40 plus years ago when I decided to attend the bar mitzvah of someone that Rabbi Schoenfeld's son-in-law introduced me to. Who would know this? Who would believe this? Because Kol HaTorah, everything's invested in the minutiae. Even in Murray Eden. Even in Murray Eden. Murray Eden was a specialist at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he was the one who led the team that set up the original barcode system that was used for the first time in 1974 in a Marsh supermarket store at 9:01 a.m. for a 67-cent purchase of a pack of Wrigley's gum, and you don't know who Murray Eden is. Thank you for listening. I'd appreciate it so much.
Want to thank everyone's patience and attendance. Number two, we're going to do benching in a moment. And we especially want to thank Rabbi Glatt for sharing us that the putting on tzitzis is simply not fringe benefits, but is an econ of how important they are. Erwin, would you tell us it's the same? Right. I'm sorry, usually I say. Embracing him.
Thank you. Just me. Yep. Oh, could you, for the dinner, the table for Alan and
One second. Walking, you said?
for the hello. How are you? No, it would be good to give more notice of the meetings. The last two meetings I had doctor's appointments. Yeah. Two meetings. This is this and yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Thinking that her staff.
Yeah.
But we can put her in red list. Thank you so much. Okay. Don't forget the glasses. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. No problem. I just.
For the next 3 months, okay? That's all I need to tell you.
Oh, wait. Don't leave, girl.
What?
Don't leave.
I'm not leaving.
Doing something.
I know.
But you have to get. I don't know. You know? It won't, because I took it off. Okay, for you, I took it off. Got it. Yeah. So, I would. This is like a fortune. Oh, I'm like, now, I don't know. 30 minutes later, so I didn't get this one up. You want to wait a few minutes? Yeah, but that's so close. Yeah. So because exactly. He's not here. So if you want to wait, I can. I'll wait a minute. All right. I got to tell you that. Because wait. Uh, what do you want? Did you wait? All right. Yeah. So. No, the other two are well, the other two. Oh, Rabbi. That's what I forget. One second, deal. Don't forget. Don't Oh, well, did I put you anything on my own? If you want to know my best, maybe I'm going to bother you with this.
Wait, don't go back. Wait, there's. Right, this is your file. Okay, well, just. Okay. No way. What's up?
Well, thank you. You know? You have my. No, I.
Rabbi Green left this, where shall I put it? Okay, sure. No, that I have more from him for you. Come by me, I said. Yes.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, 20. I know.